It's September 30, 2019, and it's time to review 5 of the most outrageous, infuriating, or just plain baffling things that have happened lately. It's your Facepalm 5. Let's count them up. Number 1, HUD Secretary Ben Carson reminds us what a transphobic shit he is. I have one story that isn't connected to Ukraine or the whistleblower or impeachment, so let's get it out of the way early so we can talk about what we all came here to talk about. Ben Carson, the man Donald Trump appointed to lead the Department of Housing and Urban Development for no reason other than Trump saw the word urban and thought, I'll give that to the one black guy I know, doesn't seem too fond of trans people as a group. Maybe there are individual trans people Carson actually thinks very highly of. Who the hell am I kidding? This dude probably thinks HRT stands for heart rate turbulence. Which, it does in a cardiological context. You know what? Never mind. Week before last, the Washington Post reported that during a meeting with about 50 staffers at HUD's San Francisco office, Carson shared his concerns about, quote, big hairy men invading women's homeless shelters. Now, sure, maybe we can take a charitable view of Carson's remarks there. Maybe he wasn't taking a crude, hateful swipe at trans women. Maybe he was worried about women's shelters being overrun by, lumberjacks? Or hippies? They were in San Francisco. But in order to assume that Carson's remarks weren't transphobic, you have to ignore his history of insulting, denigrating, and dismissing trans people and their concerns. During his presidential campaign, remember that, he opposed trans people being allowed to serve openly in the military and referred to them as abnormal. During his time as HUD Secretary, he has rolled back Obama-era policies designed to protect trans people, explaining that he doesn't believe in, quote, special rights. He also mocks trans people fairly regularly during meetings in Washington, according to an anonymous source cited in the Washington Post story. Oh, and during this very same San Francisco trip, in addition to the thing about hairy men infiltrating women's homeless shelters, he also apparently complained about how nobody in society knows the difference between a man and a woman anymore. So maybe he's not concerned about lumberjacks or hippies. Maybe he's a transphobic piece of shit, and he always has been. I'm not sure if the next HUD secretary will be any better than Ben Carson, but I'm willing to take the risk. Because the title of his book. Hey, so Trump's in a lot of trouble. Because people who should have been holding him accountable this whole time finally decided to care about some of his many crimes and hold him accountable. So let's start with the people who are on Trump's side and talk about number 2. Right-wing media scrambles to defend Trump after whistleblower complaint. So after over 2 years of lying, corruption, obstruction of justice, destroying relationships with longtime allies while cozying up to murdering dictators, scapegoating and abusing immigrants, attempting multiple times to ban members of a particular religion from entering the country, appointing an accused rapist to the Supreme Court, blowing up the Iran nuclear deal for no reason, rolling back environmental regulations, rolling back civil rights protections, starting trade wars, and just generally being an ignorant, malicious, babbling embarrassment who embodies all of the worst stereotypes of this often very, very shitty country of mine, the thing that finally moved Democrats in Congress to get serious about impeaching Donald Trump is a complaint made by a whistleblower concerned about a phone call Trump made over the summer where he asked the president of Ukraine to do him a favor by investigating the son of Democrat, former vice president, and current presidential candidate Joe Biden. Okay. We could have gotten off a few exits back and arrived a lot sooner, but hey, as long as we're here, right? The Democrats are going to have a good long think about impeaching Trump, and the Trump supporters, they do not like that at all, and they're all doing what they usually do and just straight up denying reality and pretending that Trump didn't do anything wrong and his political enemies are just making this whole thing up. But a few of them are also lashing out at the whistleblower who started this ball rolling by making a complaint about Trump's call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Sean Hannity suggested that the whistleblower may be guilty of a crime for, quote, using intelligence against the president, which is bullshit. Trump has proven time and time again that he's impervious to intelligence. Geraldo called the whistleblower a punk and a snitch and said on Fox and Friends, quote, imagine that the president, our leader, is talking to the leader of another country, and you got all these, deep state people listening in, and the first chance they get, they run to Adam Schiff and say, hey, we have this urgent, serious leak. Yes, shame on the whistleblower for going through official channels, not running to Adam Schiff, but going through official channels to report a crime by the president. That's what people like Hannity and Geraldo are upset about, that this whistleblower saw the president committing a crime and told someone about it. Are we not supposed to tell anyone if we see the president committing a crime? Like back during the campaign when Trump said he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and his supporters would stand by him. You don't have to do that just because he said you would do it. If you see the president shoot someone and you tell someone else about it, that doesn't make you the bad guy. The president who shot someone, he's the bad guy. Also, the people who are trying to protect the person who is obviously, undeniably the bad guy, they're the bad guys too. People like, number 3, Rudy Giuliani, the worst lawyer ever. One of the many troubling details about Trump's interactions with President Zelensky regarding the Biden-related favor he asked for is the close involvement of Rudy Giuliani. It's troubling because Giuliani is not a government official. He's Trump's personal attorney, and yet Trump told Zelensky to work with Giuliani on the Biden investigation. Not an ambassador, not someone from the State Department, but his personal attorney. And since the whistleblower story went public, Giuliani, in his role as Trump's lawyer and representative, has been working up a sweat defending his client by losing his shit on TV night after night. Like this appearance on CNN with Chris Cuomo, where he rants about debunked conspiracy theories about Joe Biden and his son, accuses Cuomo of refusing to talk about stuff he's repeatedly talked about during that very conversation, insists he has documentation to back up his claims but refuses to share, and mocks CNN for having low ratings. Pretty much exactly how you would expect the former mayor of a major city who became a national hero in the aftermath of a horrific terrorist attack to behave. Once you learned that national hero's name was Rudy Giuliani. Besides scheduling regular breakdowns on primetime television, the Washington Post reported that Giuliani was also scheduled to make a paid appearance in Armenia next week at an event sponsored by the Russian government, which Russian President Vladimir Putin will be attending. In explaining his decision to cancel the appearance, Giuliani said, quote, "I didn't know Putin was going." So you, the personal attorney of a president who has been subject to federal investigation because of improper relations between himself, his presidential campaign, and the Russian government, thought it was totally fine to accept a paid gig at an event sponsored by the Russian government until you found out the president of Russia was going to be there? Oh, but it gets better. The Post story goes on to quote Giuliani as saying, "I thought I was speaking at an Armenian security conference." Which would be bad enough, except he spoke at this exact same conference last year. Who is the unsung hero who is handling Rudy Giuliani's bookings? Whoever you are, for making this fascist ghoul, this contemptible disgrace of a prosecutor turned mob lawyer, this criminal co-conspirator of Donald Trump, look as inept and morally bankrupt as possible, you have the thanks of a grateful nation. Number 4, Fox News management sides with Tucker Carlson against Shepard Smith. Let us pause a moment and ponder the mystery of Shepard Smith. He's a respected reporter and news anchor. He ruthlessly fact-checks Donald Trump and the Trump administration, contradicting their false narratives, refusing to repeat their talking points, and yet he works for Fox News Channel. Why does he work for Fox News Channel? Presumably because they pay him a shit ton of money, which they do, and it's not that Shep's journalistic integrity isn't for sale, it's just that it's really expensive. So the better question might be, why does Fox News Channel employ someone like Shep Smith, who seems completely uninterested in playing along with the whole right-wing propaganda thing they've got going over there. Because they want to have one prominent on-air personality who isn't a pathetic partisan hack obviously in the tank for Trump? So Shep's like Alan Colmes, only he's capable of winning arguments? Rest in peace, Alan. I know Hannity misses you. You were his favorite jobber. Anyway, the reason I bring up the Shep Smith question is that recently, since the whistleblower story became front page news, Shep has been crossing swords with another star of Fox News, everyone's favorite not a white supremacist, Tucker Carlson. Last week, Shep had as a guest on his show frequent Fox News contributor Andrew Napolitano, not exactly a left-winger. Napolitano told Shep that Trump had committed a crime by pressuring President Zelensky to investigate Joe Biden. Later that night, Tucker had as a guest on his show Joe diGenova, who briefly served on Trump's legal team during the Mueller investigation. diGenova called Napolitano a fool for saying that Trump had committed a crime. So the next day, Shep said on his show that Tucker's failure to defend Napolitano when diGenova called him a fool was repugnant. Boys, you both collect fat paychecks from a phony news network, and you both routinely feature guests with zero credibility as though they're reliable experts. Can't we settle this like adults? According to an article published last week by Vanity Fair, Fox News management stepped in to quash the Shep versus Tucker feud by siding with Tucker. According to Vanity Fair, both the CEO and the president of Fox News told Shep to stop attacking Tucker or they'd take him off the air. Why is Fox News so protective of Tucker Carlson in particular? You know, the Fox News Twitter account hasn't tweeted anything since November 8th, 2018, right? That's because Fox News is protesting Twitter not taking down tweets that posted Tucker's home address. This was when protesters showed up at Tucker's house, if you recall. So Fox News goes dark on Twitter to protest on behalf of Tucker, and Fox News management tells Shepard Smith, the closest thing the company has to an actual journalist, to lay off Tucker. Does Tucker have embarrassing information about Fox News executives or something? A photograph of Rupert Murdoch enjoying a Jane Fonda movie? Video of the late Roger Ailes not sexually harassing a woman? What could it be? I would love to know. Now it's time for the segment devoted to some of the other things Donald Trump has done recently to disgrace the presidency and embarrass and or endanger the United States and the rest of the world. It's number 5, the further misadventures of Lord Dampnut. Please keep in mind, as always, the following is not a complete list. So let's talk about this Ukraine whistleblower thing, and specifically Trump's role in it, because it's not only infuriating and highly entertaining, but also informative. On July 18, the Office of Management and Budget orders U.S. aid to Ukraine suspended on Trump's instructions. 1 week later, on July 25th, during a call with Ukrainian President Zelensky, Trump asks Zelensky, as a favor, to investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter for allegedly pressuring Ukrainian leaders to fire the country's prosecutor general and passing on to the new prosecutor general a list of people not to prosecute. By the time of Trump's phone call with Zelensky, the allegations against the Bidens had been debunked and discredited for over 3 months. After the whistleblower complaint became known, Trump and his surrogates insisted that no wrongdoing had been committed, that there was nothing unusual or inappropriate about the call between Trump and Zelensky, and to prove it, he releases a transcript of the call. A transcript which is even more incriminating of Trump than most people expected. According to the whistleblower, White House officials were immediately aware of how damaging the call could be to Trump because the records of the call were placed in a computer system run by the National Security Council, a system intended to protect information that could be sensitive to national security. The Trump-Zelensky call contained no such information, only things which were potentially politically damaging to Trump. But I'm getting sidetracked. Let's focus on what Trump himself did here. He ordered aid to Ukraine suspended. He asked the president of Ukraine to investigate one of his political opponents based on an already debunked story. And he did this directly on a phone call from the White House, witnessed by numerous people, of which there are records confirming the crime Trump committed. He didn't pull someone aside and whisper in their ear, "Hey, talk to someone in Ukraine and see if they can help us out with this Biden thing." He didn't go through unofficial back channels. He didn't wait a few months until he saw President Zelensky in person, which he did at the United Nations last week. He just comes right out and asks the guy on an official phone call, "Hey, leader of another country, can you do me a solid and dig up some dirt on the guy I might be running against in the next election? That'd be great. And if you need any help, talk to my personal lawyer about it. He'll be happy to lend a hand." Or the Attorney General, who is also basically my personal lawyer. He's in on this too for some reason. People like to compare Trump to a crime boss, and I think that's a fair comparison, but it's more than that. He's not just a crime boss. He's a poorly written crime boss in a TV show. He's like Lex Luthor in Superman the Animated Series, who had to talk openly on the phone about his evil schemes so that all us dipshit kids and teenagers in the audience could follow what was going on. Just imagine what an arrogant buffoon you have to be to think you can prove your innocence by releasing a transcript of an incriminating phone call. And then these pathetic pleas of there was no pressure, there was no quid pro quo, because Trump never said the words, "You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours," which I'm surprised he didn't, by the way, given how fucking terrible he is at everything he does. And the phone call isn't even the whole story. It just fits with everything else we know so far. Trump and his administration exhibited a clear pattern of behavior relative to Ukraine in the months leading up to the call. Vice President Pence canceling his planned trip to attend Zelensky's inauguration, Trump's reluctance to meet with Zelensky until he was sure Zelensky would play ball, which is mentioned in the whistleblower's complaint, the deep involvement of Giuliani, the apparent involvement of the U.S. Special Representative to Ukraine and the U.S. Ambassador to the European Union. Lots of us have been impatient for House Democrats to begin impeachment proceedings against Trump. If you watch this series, you know that I have been whining about it literally for years at this point. But apparently, Trump was getting tired of waiting for them to impeach him too. So he decided to just do some impeachable shit right out in the open, then release the evidence. So, thanks, I guess? I wouldn't be surprised if the Democrats still find a way to cock this whole thing up, but hey, at least they finally decided to do something. Let this be a lesson to all you Republicans. Commit crimes against humanity, against immigrants, persecute and dehumanize trans people, elevate rapists to position of governmental power, and you'll get some stern head shakes and disappointed looks, but try to fuck with Joe Biden, and your asses are grasses. That's 5. Speak out, act out, resist, look after each other. Hey folks, hope you got something out of this one. If you did, please click like and share the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not subbed already. And also please consider helping me to keep making videos like this one and like all the videos I make by becoming a supporter of this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives and become a patron of this channel for as little as $1 a month. And believe me, those $1 a month pledges really add up and help me out like you would not believe. But if you can afford it and you think I'm worth it, and you pledge $5 a month or more, you get yourself a shout out at the end of the Facepalm 5, just like these folks, my newest $5 or more per month patrons. Philip Fejcik Koval, thank you Philip. Objectively Subjective, thank you Objectively Subjective. Jose Bruna, thank you Jose. Oasis, thank you Oasis. Sean Stubblefield, thank you Sean. I Think I'm Nuts, thank you, I Think I'm Nuts. Aldrin and Nate Thorne, thank you, Aldrin and Nate. Simon Halfdan Vilshaj Garnero, thank you, Simon. Michelle Jacobson, thank you, Michelle. McBeard, thank you, McBeard. Mike Milleron, thank you, Mike. Thomas Dumbleton, thank you, Thomas. And Oystein Royce, thank you, Oystein. Thank you to all of my patrons, however much you are pledging, however long you have been pledging it. I appreciate you so much. I could not do this without the support of my Patreon patrons and other folks who have seen fit to support this channel financially through PayPal donations or super chats when I do live chats. Thank you all so much for the support, however you give it, in whatever form it takes. Thanks to all of you who are not patrons and have never given me a dime for anything, but just watch the videos and like and subscribe and share. I could not do it without your support as well. So in whatever form your support takes, I thank you for it so much from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you next time.